All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me. This information session is proudly presented by SignUp Software, the creators of ExFlow Accounts Payable Automation. And my name is Courtney Jennings. I'm a developer at SignUp North America. And during this brief session, we will explore the key features of the ExFlow Import Journal and provide some valuable time-saving tips to enhance your efficiency with ExFlow AP in Dynamics 365 Business Central. So before we get started, here are a few guidelines for the info session. Your microphones and cameras will remain off throughout the session. As a result, verbal questions will not be possible. However, if you have any questions, please use the chat feature. We will address your questions towards the end of the session. So just keep in mind that everyone can see your messages in the chat, so refrain from sharing any personal or sensitive information. During the session, we will demonstrate the latest version of ExFlow in Business Central. If you are using an older version, the interface may appear slightly different, so please take that into consideration. The duration for this session is around 25 minutes. And afterwards, we will be sending out a recording along with some extra reading materials. So this button is where you can find the chat, and please remember that it is not private. For more personal questions, please contact your support team. Our agenda for today, so for those of you that may be new to ExFlow, I will begin by briefly introducing the ExFlow import journals, so telling you what they are, what their purpose is, and then we will jump right into the Business Central walkthrough. And then at the end, I'll take a little bit of time to answer some of the questions typed into the chat. So ExFlow import journals. So when you get invoices from your vendors, they typically originate as a paper document or maybe a PDF that gets emailed to you. And these documents are either sent to ExFlow data capture if you're using that. And from there, they are forwarded to Business Central for processing. They could also be uploaded directly into Business Central by other means. So your import journals serve as the initial repository for all accounts payable invoices sent to Business Central. And again, that's either by ExFlow data capture or through any other means. This is where your AP team can make any final adjustments before the invoices are sent for approval and subsequently posted in Business Central. So let's take a quick look at Business Central and do a walkthrough. So today I will be highlighting some key features and actions. Please note that the import journals offer a wide range of functionalities beyond what we will cover in today's session. And for more comprehensive information, don't be shy. You can reach out to our support team or your partner for assistance. You can also refer to our online manual if you would like. So to access the import journals in Business Central, you can, of course, search for them up here. You can also click on this Documents and Batches tile, and this will be available on the ExFlow AP Accountant Role Center. So if you click on that there, it brings up an overview of all of your journal batches. And this structure should be fairly familiar if you're working in Business Central a lot. This is very consistent with other Business Central journals where you have batches, and in those batches, you have individual documents. I have my batches sorted by the type of invoice. So I have expense invoices as well as PO invoices. You can have these set up however is most relevant for your team. So you do have a lot of flexibility here. And just one thing I want to draw your attention to is this column up here. that says automatically create documents. This setting is very helpful. It actually helps you automate your invoicing process quite a bit. So if let's say you have some imported documents in the journal and they're free of any warnings or errors, if you have this selected, you can actually get that document forwarded for approval without having to move it from the import stage. So for instance, when utilizing a predefined account, the document will be sent for approval with that account, assuming all other conditions are met. Additionally, there are some specific settings that are available to automatically create documents only from selected vendors if you wanted to do that instead. And I will be providing a link with further details after the session. And please also consider joining some of our other info sessions if you want to learn more about features like these. So if you take a look at the icons on the top corner here, those are also very familiar. You can click on this little bookmark icon here if you want this ExFlow Import Journal batch page to be available when you open up your Role Center. You can also click on a specific journal here, a specific batch, and you can see here that I have it selected. So if I go back out to my Role Center, I have a link to it there, and that's just what that little bookmark feature does. So if you take a look at some of the actions under this home menu here, you have the ability to import your documents manually. You can also handle this automatically through a job. And here we have a link to ExFlow data capture. So if you use that and you want to go take a look at it, you don't have to leave BC and hunt for it. You can just click on that action there. Under actions here, you'll find a very helpful function, email receipt reminders. So if you've got a bunch of invoices and your vendors haven't sent out receipts, you can use this function to send them a reminder. Over here on the right, we have a fact box pane. And this fact box pane here will actually give you some pending document statistics. So for example, it will show you how many open documents there are in the ExFlow import journals, as well as if there are any import errors, or if you've got any documents that are still waiting to be imported, they'll show up here too. So let's open up a journal and dig into that. Up here at the top, you can see that we are in our expense batch through this batch name. If you want to switch to another batch, you would click those three dots and you could select a different batch. And so you don't need to actually leave your import journals to switch between batches here. And below you can see all of your header information and your line information. We will be going over that in a little more detail later on in this session. But let's head over to home and take a look at what's under there. So you can see here, this home menu is always available to you when you open up this page. And that's because we have it pinned over here. If I wanted it to fold up, I could unpin it. And if I want it back, I can pin it again. Under this menu, you have your auto coding suggestions. And auto coding suggestions is actually a feature that streamlines the coding process by offering automated suggestions. So users have the option to either manually navigate and select their coding suggestion, or they can have them suggested for them. I won't be going into any more details about this feature today, but you can find more detailed information on this feature in our manual, or you can also contact support or your partner for assistance with activation. And more information will be sent out in the links after this session. And one of the features in there will be the auto coding suggestions. If you look to your right over here, you'll see you have a fact box with a preview of the original PDF invoice. And as you switch between lines here, you'll see that get updated to show the invoice for the PDF invoice for the currently selected line. If you don't want to keep the fact box tab open, you can always open the PDF viewer in a new tab to see it in kind of a bigger view. There's also a shortcut here to the vendor card. And under ExFlow vendor setup, you can easily access settings that are specific to that vendor and ExFlow. You can also import documents into the journals the same way that you can with the batch. And once they're imported, you can actually choose to verify them. So you probably won't be able to see this on Microsoft Teams, but if you hover over any of the actions, you'll see a brief description of that action, like what it does. And for many of the actions, you'll also see shortcut keys in brackets at the end of the description. So for this verified document, the shortcut key is Control and R. And if you wanted to batch verify all documents, you could do that here for every document in the batch. And you could also press Control, Alt, and R. So the next time you're in the import journals, give it a try, hover over some of these actions and see if you can discover any new shortcuts. Under Create here, we have the option to either batch create all invoices and credit memos, or we can create a specific invoice and credit memo. And if you select the batch option, it will send everything in the journal that does not have a warning on it for approval. So if you wanted to select several documents, you could actually click on these little dots here and click on Select More. You can also Control and left click to mark documents, but here I can mark a couple of documents, and I can now batch create only the documents that I have marked. And if I wanted to download these selected documents and perhaps review them before they are sent for approval, I could also press Control and I to download these to a zip folder. And if I wanted to create a single document, I could just place my cursor on that line, and I could just press on Create Invoice or Credit Memo, or press F9 as a keyboard shortcut. So under Actions and Import, we have some very helpful features. If you have invoices with many lines that you'd prefer to work with in Excel, you can download that those invoices into an Excel template and manage them in Excel. You can then import those lines from Excel. You could also choose to get the latest coding from the vendor and apply it to this invoice. So what this does is this will go out and it will find the last posted invoice and copy the GL account lines into the selected document in the import journal. That could save you some time. Under functions here, we have save coding to vendor. So if you use the same coding repeatedly for a specific vendor, clicking here will create a purchase code with the coding of the invoice lines for that currently selected invoice. And that code will then be saved and directly applied to that vendor for you. If a document is in the wrong journal, you can have it transported to another batch. You can transfer it. Or if you're using multiple companies and you've got an invoice in the wrong company, you can then choose to transfer that journal to another company here as well. If we scroll down to contract, you have the option to create a contract for an invoice, and you can do that directly here in the import journal. So ExFlow contracts allow you to automate and maintain control over any of your reoccurring documents or contracts. Think of internet and phone bills that reoccur monthly, or even rent. So as an example, something you could do to speed up your process is if you have a phone bill that is the same every month and it comes into the import journal and it has no errors or warnings, you can actually set up ExFlow so that it gets moved through the AP invoice process and is ready for posting without even needing to be reviewed in the import journal or even approved. As always, if there are errors or warnings, it will not move through the process and it will be highlighted for review. So under Related and Documents, you have the option here to take a look at the order card. So this is for PO matched invoices. So if you have a purchase order associated with an invoice, you can click on this and get taken directly to that purchase order. Also, if you have a contract that's associated to the invoice, you can click on Show Contract to view the contract right in the import journal. You can also take a look at your vendor's bank account details here. You have just a quick link to that. A very beneficial feature of ExFlow is that the processing of invoices occurs in Business Central, which makes it very easy for your team to use familiar BC functionality. So for example, filtering here, you could open up the filter pane and you could add any of these header filters here. And you could then filter down the lines using any of BC's filter formulas. So this would be great if you wanted to take a look at only certain vendors' documents or documents between a certain date. So this is helpful if you have hundreds of invoices in your journal and you just want to look at certain ones. Another option is you can right-click on any of these columns. So for example, by firm vendor name. And if I've got a line highlighted here, so I have Microsoft's invoice highlighted, I can click on filter to this value and it will filter my entire import journal on only my Microsoft invoices. To remove that filter, I just click clear filter. And again, if I see a column here that I want to filter on, but I don't want to go hunting for that column in the list of columns here, I could just right click on it, click on filter, and it gets added right to the filter pane there. So at the header level, you can view all of your information from your document. So that would be your vendor information, any dates, as well as any of your tax information, any amounts here for your invoices, your totals, your approval rules, any ExFlow purchase codes you've got assigned to the invoice. And if you have reference codes assigned to them, you'll see them too, your currency, as well as responsibility centers. We do support that too. So if you have responsibility centers, you can see them at the header level. And changing any header values will update the lines. You'll get a little warning, but if you press OK, you can have your lines automatically updated. Earlier, we talked about batch creating and selecting which documents to create. You have another option here at the header level. There's this block document field here. And you probably can't see my screen or the options here on my screen, but there are two options. So you can actually block a document from creation or posting. So if you choose creation here and you want to block a document from creation, it will prevent the invoice or credit memo from being created when you choose to create credit memos and invoices. So the document will stay in the import journal and will not move forward for approval if you have this block set. You can also set a block for posting. And so what will happen is if you choose to create the invoice, it will get moved out of the import journal and be moved on to the approval status page. You won't be able to post that even if you fully approve the document and there are no errors. You'll have to go to the approval status page and actually remove that block before you can post. This is a great way to prevent documents from being created or posted by accident by those batch functions. It just adds another level of control, and it's also very helpful if you're working with a larger volume of documents. So at the line level here, you'll see all of your GL account lines and your quantities and all of your line details. You'll also be able to see dimensions, your approvals, and then your budgeting as well if you if you use that. And there are a few other features you can take a look at. So if you click here on Show Approval Proposal, this is just a great way to quickly add or delete approvers. So if I wanted to add an approver right now, I would just select them from the list here. I could just say Carlos. Okay. And what that does is that now adds Carlos G as an approver for the line that I have selected. If I want Carlos to approve other lines, I can go to Actions, Functions, and Copy Approvers. And then I get the option to either copy Carlos to all the lines as an approver or only copy to the lines below. You can take a look at available approval rules, and here you can see what other approval rules are a match for this document. So there are also some helpful keyboard shortcuts you might like to use when you're working with header and line data in the import journal. We talked about a few of them already. We did talk about Control and R being for verifying the document, and Control and I for downloading the document, and F9 for creating documents. But did you know as well that you could actually press F5 if you wanted to update all of the information on this page? So if you've added information to the import journal and you want to make sure you're looking at the most updated version, that's when you would use F5. In addition to that, if you're working with lines, and let's say you add a new line here, and you just want to copy the details from a line above, you would just put your cursor in the field you want to copy, and you would just press F8, and it would populate with the value from the line above. And in addition to that, you can also easily create new lines by pressing Control and Insert if you wanted to do that as well. We're going to move on to the fact box pane. So over on the right here, we have our fact box pane, and you can expand and collapse that. In addition to that, you can also go up to Settings and Personalize, and you can then move the boxes around if you wanted to, or you could remove some of the fact boxes that maybe aren't relevant to you. I'll mention as well that fact boxes can be resized permanently, and you can do that either globally or just per BC user. I won't go into too many details, but I'll just mention that if you want to set up the fact box size globally, you would go to ExFlow Setup, and you would then go and find ExFlow fact box default size, and you could set the fact box size for all ExFlow users in Business Central. If you wanted to set the fact box size up per user, you could go to the ExFlow user card and click on User Fact Box Sizes. And again, all that information is available in our documentation platform if you wanted to find that. So you can also resize the fact boxes here by clicking on this plus and minus. You can then refresh your view or revert to the original fact box sizes as well when you're done with it. In the fact box pane, you can see that we have the original document here in a PDF preview. And this document is visible throughout the AP process, from initial creation and import into the ExFlow import journal, all the way through to review of the posted entries. You can take a look at a copy of this. And this behaves very much like a PDF reader. So at the top, you have some arrows. So if you had multiple pages, you could go between those pages by clicking on Next Page or Previous. You could even select a specific page up here by entering it. Or you could go all the way to the last page or all the way to the first page. You can even zoom in and out on this document and reset that zoom here. If we scroll down, we'll actually see the discussion panel. And this is a very useful and popular feature in ExFlow. So here you can write messages, and each message is per an invoice. So if you select the actual invoice line here, you can actually write a message and you can tag somebody in that message. So to tag somebody, you would press the @ button, and you can either type their name or you can scroll through the list and select someone. And once you tag someone in a comment here, they can get notified in a couple of different ways. And that's going to show up either as an email, as a notification, or as both. And that depends on how you have everything set up. So if a user works only on the web, they won't see any of these messages until the document is sent for approval. And if the user works in Business Central, they can come into the import journal and view those discussion comments there. Comments are visible to all Business Central users with the appropriate access, and they cannot be deleted. So avoid sharing sensitive information. Comments are also available at every step of the AP invoicing process, from the import journal all the way through to the posted document. So this means that many different users throughout the invoicing workflow can view those discussion comments. So you can also view any of your comments or any of your discussion comments here under ExFlow history and chat notifications. So you can see here, the default is to only see your read messages. You can show all to see your previously read messages. And you can see here all the message details. You can also press on show document if you wanted to take a look at the document that comment is available on. And if you delete a document, the comments made in the discussion panel will remain attached to the document, preserving all document comments. And you can view deleted documents under ExFlow history here and under deleted documents. So I do want to also take a look at ExFlow Web to show you what comments look like there, what the chat comments look like there. So if you take a look at this chat button here, you can see all of your unread messages. You can then switch and see any of your read messages as well. And up at the top here, you can click and take a look at chat comments on particular invoices. So this invoice right here has a chat comment. I can then open that up. And I can then write a comment in here that will then get pushed back into Business Central. Depending on your permissions in ExFlow Web, you can also tag a user and select them, and then they'll get notified that there's a comment for them. So let's head back into Business Central and take a look at the fact boxes here on the invoice. So this incoming document files, this will show you any other documents that you can then attach for that invoice. So you can press that arrow there, and you can choose to download or upload other documents. And these files will also follow the document through the AP invoicing flow. You can also see your approval proposal here per line. And if you click on the arrow, you can show your approval proposal, and you can modify it the same way we did at the line level. We also have some document details here and some vendor statistics at your fingertips, as well as some Q tiles here if you wanted to look at your vendor history. And then one last thing I wanted to draw your attention to here are warning messages. So you can see on this invoice here, we have a warning message, and it's telling us that they're not yet accepted. So if we scroll over here to the fact box, you can see that warning message here. It's for a due date. And if you hover over it, you can see the full message. So we can actually go ahead and accept this warning message. And then after we've accepted it, this document will be ready to be posted. And you can then go ahead and press F9 and create it. Okay, so that actually concludes our walkthrough through today. And before I discuss any resources available to you, let's just take a look at the chat panel and see if there's any questions. And if you think of anything after the info session has ended, feel free to post it and we can take a look at it. So let's see here. All right, so I don't see anything. Again, you can definitely email your email support or email your partner or post anything here if you think of anything later, and we will head back and take a look. So finally, here are some resources that are available for you. We have our documentation platform. And on here, we have any of our release notes and any links to our video tutorials. You can also find information about our other products, such as ExFlow Web, ExFlow Sales Orders, CO2 Insights, and also Travel and Expense. So if any of those interest you, the link will be provided to you in the email you receive after this session, and you can head on to our online manual and find out more information. Available on YouTube, we also have some video tutorials. These are just short videos that introduce you to the features and functions of ExFlow and some of our other products. And again, that link will also be available to you through the email you get after the session. And it's also available in your online manual that you can find online. So lastly, we do have some more info sessions. I encourage you to check out our next upcoming info session. That is on dynamic approval flows and for Dimension owners. This is going to be presented by Sawyer Chapin, one of our consultants, and you can check that out on Thursday, May the 8th at 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to join that info session, you can scan that QR code here with the giant arrow pointing to it. Additionally, a link to register for the next session will be available in the email that you receive after this session. And if you have any questions about the info sessions or any questions about ExFlow products in general, please feel free to reach out to your support team, or if you need contact information, you can scan the QR code here on the screen, and then you can reach out with any questions you have. So thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope you learned something new, and I hope you have a wonderful day, everyone.